The hidden messages inside famous paintings you never noticed. Level C. 1. Advance. Art has always been more than what we see. Paintings hang silently on museum walls, yet they speak louder than history books. They hide secrets, coded symbols, political resistance, forbidden love stories, and confessions the artist could never say aloud. If you know how to look, a painting stops being just paint and canvas. It becomes a whisper, a warning, a confession. In the Renaissance, secrecy was not optional but necessary. To criticize the church or political authority openly meant exile or execution. That is why many great masters learned the art of hiding meaning in plain sight. Leonardo da Vinci, for example, was not obsessed with mystery. He simply lived in an age where direct speech could destroy him. The Mona Lisa, perhaps the most analyzed face in the world, continues to resist interpretation. Her smile is not only enigmatic, it is performative. It suggests that she knows something the viewer does not. Some scholars argue that her expression reflects the philosophical idea of sfumato, the belief that truth is never defined but exists in gradients. Her look is a thesis disguised as a portrait. Vermeer, on the other hand, used silence as his coded language. His women appear calm, almost frozen, caught between domestic duty and private longing. In Girl with a Pearl Earring, the oversized pearl, impossible and almost luminous, becomes a symbol of desire that cannot be named. It is not simply jewelry. It is exaggeration, a dream, a temptation, a wish too large for the girl who wears it. The painting speaks of youth on the threshold of awakening, but in the 17th century, such emotional autonomy for a young woman could not be stated aloud, only painted. Caravaggio weaponized shadow. His canvases are thick with darkness, not because he loved gloom, but because darkness allowed him to expose truth without decoration. In the Calling of St. Matthew, the gesture of Christ's hand mirrors that of Adam in the Sistine Chapel. Caravaggio deliberately quotes Michelangelo, but reverses meaning. Adam is offered divinity. Matthew is offered redemption. The painting becomes a coded dialogue across time, one artist answering another, using gesture instead of words. Not all hidden messages are noble. In many medieval altarpieces, donors, wealthy merchants who funded the commission appear in the corner, kneeling modestly. But their clothing is too rich, their posture too proud. They are not praying, they are advertising. Art was the Renaissance equivalent of social media, a curated identity, perfected and permanent. If you paid the painter well enough, holiness could be positioned just behind your shoulder. Then there is Hieronymus Bosch, the painter of nightmares. His garden of earthly delights is not simply bizarre. It is moral commentary in disguise. The fantastical creatures, oversized fruits, hybrid bodies, they are metaphors for temptation. But Bosch never writes the sermon. He paints it. Instead of condemning lust with words, he lets viewers wander through a visual labyrinth of pleasure, only to find themselves in a quiet horror. Sin, he suggests, is not frightening until it is too late. Bosch hides philosophy inside absurdity. Even portraits, seemingly straightforward, are rarely honest. Royal portraits in the Baroque era do not show rulers as they were, but as they wanted to be remembered: taller, calmer, cleaner, victorious. A king's body might be decaying from disease. The portrait shows him glowing with divine authority. This was not simple flattery. It was propaganda repainted into immortality. The canvas outlived the truth. Modern viewers miss these layers not because we are inattentive, but because our age expects speed. We scroll past images in seconds. Renaissance viewers had the opposite relationship with pictures. They stared, studied, and considered. A painting existed to be decoded, not consumed. The hidden message was not an Easter egg, but a method of survival, communication, and power. If classical art used symbolism to avoid censorship, the Impressionists used it to defend freedom. Monet, Renoir, Degas, their lightness is deceptive. Impressionism was not simply a celebration of sunlight, it was a rebellion against academic authority. Instead of hiding religious allegory or political caution, they hid defiance in technique. Blurred lines, unfinished strokes, unstable perspective. These choices reflect a challenge to the hierarchy of art. They declared that beauty, like truth, could be momentary. But some secrets are personal rather than political. Vincent van Gogh, misunderstood during his lifetime, poured coded emotion into color. Starry Night is not a landscape, it is a psychological map. The spiral sky is not meteorological truth, but internal turbulence. The mind's weather. The village below sleeps peacefully, unaware of the cosmic storm above. Van Gogh paints contrast between internal chaos and external calm, a confession that his soul was louder than the world around him could hear. In the next part, the exploration shifts into modern works, where abstraction, surrealism, and conceptual art turned hidden messages into entire realities. Painting stopped pretending to depict life and instead reveal thought, identity, politics, and pain directly. Yet even then, meaning remains slippery. Art never tells you what to think. It dares you to think it all. When the 20th century arrived, art no longer needed to whisper. It could speak, shout, dismantle, and rebuild meaning. Yet, paradoxically, the modern era produced works whose messages became even more cryptic. In modernism, secrecy was no longer about fear of punishment. It became a philosophical game. Pablo Picasso understood the power of fragmentation. In Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, faces splinter into geometric planes, anatomy fractures, and perspective collapses. Critics saw chaos. Picasso saw revelation. By breaking the human form, he also broke the viewer's assumption of control. These women do not look at you passively. They confront you. Their gaze is not seductive but accusatory. The painting dismantles the centuries-old male fantasy of the passive muse. What is hidden here is not a symbol, but a shift in power. The women own the looking. Salvador Dalí, meanwhile, disguised terror as elegance. His melting clocks in the persistence of memory are not surrealist decoration but a quiet panic about time's cruelty. The painting is a confession dressed as dream logic. Time does not melt because it is soft, but because Dalí feared its hardness, the brutal certainty that every life bends toward ending. The hidden message is not in the object but in the dread beneath it. Frida Kahlo, unlike her contemporaries, hid nothing and yet hid everything. Her body, her pain, her marriages, her miscarriages, all are visually present, but the secret lies in presentation. In the two Fridas, she splits herself not to shock but to illustrate contradiction. One Frida bleeds openly, the other holds her heart inside. Identity becomes a battlefield between what the world sees and what it refuses to acknowledge. Her paintings are diaries written in anatomy, and yet each detail, the vein, the scissors, the lace, is also metaphor, protected by color. Jackson Pollock is often dismissed by those who see only splatter, yet his drip paintings are not chaos. They are maps of movement. Pollock replaced brushstroke with choreography. The canvas records time, breath, and impulse. The message is not representational, but existential. Humans do not merely look at paintings, they move through them. The lines are not patterns, but traces of presence. Pollock hid intention beneath improvisation. As the century progressed, the coded language of art changed yet again. Banksy, operating outside tradition, uses anonymity itself as the message. When he paints a child frisking a soldier or a riot police officer with a smiley face, the surface is simple, even humorous, but the simplicity is weapon. His works do not belong in cathedrals or palaces, but on public walls, because the subject itself is public hypocrisy. Banksy's secrecy is not about identity. It is about making the viewer confront their own. Even abstraction retains its riddles. Mark Rothko's vast color fields appear quiet, but their silence is volcanic. They invite you to project, collapse, meditate, or suffocate. In front of a Rothko, you are not observing a scene, you are observing yourself. The secret is participation. Meaning does not live in the canvas, but in the space between it and your chest. Rothko hides nothing except the instruction manual. Art historians often insist on correct interpretation, but paintings resist ownership. Every hidden message carries multiple readings. Caravaggio's shadows can be sin or salvation. Dali's clocks can be comedy or despair. Kahlo's blood can be mourning or liberation. Meaning is not delivered from artist to viewer, but forged in tension between them. In our digital age, we expect clarity, explanation, and instant understanding. But art still obeys older laws. It demands duration, patience, vulnerability. To stand before a painting and not rush to name it is, in itself, radical. Hidden messages remain hidden not because they are buried too deep, but because we expect to uncover them too fast. Perhaps the true secret of art is that every painting is a mirror, and every viewer is both detective and subject. We search canvases for revelation, unaware that painters have always searched us back. Their symbols, codes, illusions, and distortions are not puzzles to be solved, but invitations to see the world and ourselves with slower eyes. In the end, nothing inside a painting is accidental. A pearl is not merely an ornament. A clock is not merely an object. A smear of red is not merely paint. Art hides messages because human experience is unspeakable. When words fail, color remains. When language collapses, composition continues. And when history forgets, canvas remembers. So the next time you stand before a masterpiece, do not ask what it means. Ask what it hides and what it reveals when you finally give it time.